Hello and welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of the Cinemax Original Series Outcast, episode 103, entitled All Alone Now. I'm Adam Foxman, this is Mathis Coos.
Hey.
And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit. We'd love to field any questions, comments, and concerns, and please rate us on iTunes. This is the number one way that you can support our show, and we'd really appreciate it. What's going on, Mothman?
Oh, not a whole lot, Foxman. I was actually going to do my intro as the quacking laugh from the Joker on Suicide Squad, but yeah, I figured it'd be too jarring just to be the first thing out of my mouth, so I subdued myself into the sassy black woman from Reno 911.
Okay, that sounds good.
Right?
Hi.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so what an episode, am I right? Pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's. I'm wondering now if this is going to kind of be the setup of the show as it moves forward, is like these sort of one-off plots that also move the plot forward in general. You know what I mean? Like in terms of having like a new character, or a new demon each episode. Yeah,
it's almost. It reminds me a little bit of X-Files, not thematically at all, but just X-Files. There was always this overarching plot about the smoking man and like government conspiracies and other things, but ultimately each episode was a standalone episode about a separate crazy report they had to investigate. And it kind of feels like, yeah, there's going to be a new demon or possession each episode, but you're maybe going to get more with the man in the fedora, a little bit more information on who Kyle is and what his relevance is, and then you'll maybe have some broader story arcs come out towards the end of the season or subsequent seasons.
Did you ever watch the show, oh crap, I was going to say Preacher, and that's definitely not what it is. Reaper. Did you ever watch Reaper?
I did watch Reaper, yeah, because the reason I gave it a shot is because Kevin Smith actually produced it and directed the pilot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
See, I actually really liked Reaper, and I watched it all the way through, and to me, Outcast is just like a less funny and way darker version of Reaper.
Thus far, yeah. One of my favorite parts about Reaper was Ray Wise, who I love from Twin Peaks, and he's one of my favorite character actors. He's in a lot of horror movies, like both just shitty ones, but also like high quality B horror movies that aren't big. But is
he the one who plays the devil?
Yeah, but he is just so much fun. Like, he totally chews the scenery. He's always so much fun, no matter what he's in and whatever the quality of the script. He's worth watching.
He is awesome. He kind of looks like a Pat Sajak type character. Not that he, you know what I mean? Like
he could definitely host a game show. Yeah,
exactly.
Have you ever watched Deadbeat on Hulu?
No, I've never even heard of it.
I've been curious to check it out because it's the only thing I've really seen the star of Reaper, like the fat Jack Black character, like comedic one.
Yeah, I have seen him on other things, actually, in small roles.
Yeah, I've seen him in small roles, but he's the star of a Hulu original called Deadbeat, in which he somehow is a detective that can see ghosts and investigate them, and it's very tongue-in-cheek. And the most recent trailers I've seen for it have, I believe, Kumar from Harold and Kumar, and it looks like it's become like a pot-smoking ghost detective show.
Oh, that actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of surprising that his star isn't burning a little bit brighter, because he's actually, like, really funny and has a lot of charisma.
Yeah, and I actually, I don't know how I stumbled onto this. I listened to the Smodcast, the Kevin Smith podcast, and I somehow listened to one that was old enough to where he was just in the middle of shooting that pilot, but it hadn't like aired, no one had seen it, and he talks about how blown away he is by that dude, how funny he is just genuinely in person without the script, and how he's gonna make it. And I mean, it's not like he's become unemployed, but yeah, he hasn't become a big Hollywood star in any means, but yeah, I love that dude.
If only he'd gotten skinny and muscular like Chris Pratt.
Seriously. Who then immediately went back to being fat because he prefers it that way, and so does his wife.
That's funny. But hey, we have gone off on quite the tangent. You want to go ahead and read us into the Audible so we can actually launch into the show that we're here to do?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, one of the best ways to support us currently, other than liking and subscribing and just retweeting and whatnot, is to go to audibletrial.com/boobtube Boob Tube Buddies. Over 180,000 titles, amazing books to choose from that you could listen to on your car ride home, during an intense workout, as I like to do, obviously, or whatever means you want. But it's a great program. There's plenty to choose from. We'll even give you some sort of recommendation at the end of the show, but we don't want to take too much of your time because we know you're here for one thing, and that's to talk about demons.
Oh, yeah. You ready to start the pitch off?
Yeah, so it starts off, you get some ominous-looking gears. You're not sure what kind of machine it is, but then you realize it's, the bowling alley machine that puts the pins in place, which...
Oh, good. I was just praying it wasn't going to be the gears and the Suicide Squad Doomsday Device thing.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to think about it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's not.
I will say, I've always been fascinated by those bowling pin machines ever since I was a kid. It seems so complex.
Huh. I will say I am not fascinated by them, nor have I ever been.
No?
I just never once thought about it.
Just took it for granted, never thought about it. Typical first world. Okay.
If anything, the conveyor belt system that shoots the ball back towards you, like at the front of the lane, like that would be more interesting to me.
Yeah, all of it. That whole system is great.
I don't know. I feel like you're casting a pretty wide net there by saying both those things.
I think I'd be casting a pretty wide net if I talked about the people that give you shoes and check them out, and that system being amazing.
Okay, well then you're talking about the person versus person element of it.
Yeah, the people at bowling alleys suck. The machines are the best.
That's rude. What about all of our poor bowling alley fans?
It's not your fault. It's the nature of the job. I know you try your hardest.
All right, this is stupid. let's just get into it.
And so anyway, it's these two characters, and we don't know their names at this point, but Blake is the one with longer hair, and his friend is Lucas, and it seems like they're on a double date, and they were, doing some bowling, but it seems like Blake is pretty distracted. He gets a gutter ball. Lucas is ribbing him, saying maybe they need to use some more fantastical machinery to add, rims or whatever on the side.
Yeah, he's also drenched in sweat, like almost as much as I was when I visited you at work the other day.
or how you are all podcast because your AC has to be off to mitigate the noise.
That's a really good point.
Anyway, so it's showing kind of, there's a visual language that's been developed in the show, and they continue to develop here, where when people are maybe being possessed, they sweat, they seem to lose their train of thought, they kind of have some eerie sound elements happen, and it kind of gets close to their eyes. You're seeing that happen here, but it's not as heavy-handed, so you're not 100% sure what to think, but then something's wrong when he's just a complete and total asshole to his date.
He calls her like a fat cow or something like that. If the fat lonely girl likes me, I feel so much better.
Yeah, she's being very nice. His friend Lucas is being a dick, but like I would too if you missed that bad. I'm terrible at bowling, but if you just got two gutter balls in a row.
Two gutter, and like really bad gutter balls.
Really bad. Like he just
like
throws
they made it like 40% of the way down the lane.
He borderline just rolls it down the gutter.
Yeah.
Right? So his friend's giving him a hard time, which makes sense, but then she's like, oh, come on, guys, he's doing fine. And then he says, oh, great, the fat, lonely girl likes me. To which, like, Lucas and his partner's face completely change, and they're obviously very disappointed in him. So take it from there, right? They then go back to the house because he's obviously not feeling any better.
No, so they get back there, and the wife is like, no, you're going to stay here. Lucas will go out and get you some saltines, ginger ale, and we'll take care of you. They get him laid out on the couch, and then the partner, Lucas, goes out to get, what is his name again?
Blake.
Lucas and Blake. Okay, so Lucas goes out to get the stuff for Blake, and Blake's being a little inappropriate with the wife, nothing too bad, and so then he passes out, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and his pupils, like it's a close-up shot of his pupils, and they go all fucking wonky, and now something's wrong. So the shot is on her preparing something in the kitchen, and behind her you see him get up and slowly amble over to the wife, and he kind of like starts caressing her.
Yeah, and so before this, I thought one of the things I think the show does really well is the way they write dialogue, and they're not too heavy-handed with what they're trying to get across, but he makes borderline creepy comments to, and I see in further notes when we knew his name, it's Luke, not Lucas. Lucas is from Stranger Things. So he makes borderline creepy comments to Luke about how great his wife is, whose name I don't actually know, and just talking about how she's the best one. Just a few comments where he's obviously like hitting on her, but they've also known each other for years, it seems. But it still isn't. I don't know. It wouldn't make me comfortable if someone's saying that about my partner, right? So they lead that up into, okay, now he's being real freaky, and he goes up right behind her while she's trying to make something and does the whole sniff thing that the mom did to Kyle.
Yeah, and so he's getting all up on that, and so he's caressing her, and then he kisses her, and it's like really bizarre kissing. It's like jamming his tongue as far down into her mouth as he possibly can, and she starts screaming, actually, and then she ends up hitting him over the head with the tea kettle as he's like really trying to force her into it. And then he starts beating her mercilessly.
Yeah.
A lot of which you catch actually
Off-screen.
off screen. It's you see their shadows kind of dancing across the wall.
Yeah, he kisses her with so much tongue, I think even the French would be embarrassed.
She
Actually bites down and gets a little bit of his tongue, I think.
I didn't catch that, but it was honestly hard to watch. Like, I was cringing watching it.
Yeah, and I thought she did such a good job because when he first puts her hands or his hands on her face, she seems a little startled and uncomfortable, but at the same time she still looks like she knows him, and I don't know, she almost has this knowing glance that he's hit on her before, right? But then it just turns immediately to terror because you can tell his grip is going in, and then she sees the tongue, and like there's a great off-screen moment where it's just looking down the hallway into the kitchen where you don't see him, but you see her flail after hitting him with the pot, and then he just grabs her back and the carnage happens, and then Luke, being the good guy, he comes home with the saltines and ginger ale and whatever, and they don't show you any of the carnage. You don't know exactly what the aftermath is.
Yeah, well, and the fighting is definitely done because there's no more noise.
Yeah, but his lip is just quivering in terror for whatever he's seen, and then we get our credits.
Yes. So that was a pretty intense first scene. I will say it's none of your main characters that you would recognize from before. So I think that this is the first time that we've really started off an episode with complete side characters that were unrecognizable. There was a brief minute when it first started up and it was in the bowling alley scene where I had to double check to make sure that I'd thrown on the right show. Now, once he started acting really weird and was sweat, I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe he's possessed. But there was a minute where I was like, what's going on here?
Or you just think you fell asleep in the last 15 minutes of episode 2 and that somehow you missed the introduction of these characters?
Honestly, it could have been something like that.
Because that happened a few times in Preacher. I doze off all the time. Like, wait, what's happening? But give any show these days 10 minutes. They love to chop up their storylines and do fun edits and stuff, and usually you kind of feel at home and know what's going on. So, but
actually, that's a good transition into them chopping different things up. Well, we decided it would be a little bit easier for the listener if we took the edits of this and the plots and separated them. So we're not actually going to be going sequentially here. You're going to hear this episode. First, we're going to go into Kyle and the Reverend and their whole plot line, and then we'll wrap up with the Reverend and, I still call him Roy, but the deputy, Megan's wife.
Yeah,
husband.
Mm-hmm. And this is a show that so far does a lot of these quick chops and flashbacks, and I think it's very effective in the moment, and it definitely gives you an intense feel for things, and it moves everything forward at a cool kind of fast pace, but at the same time it's also the type of show that can almost be easy to, by the time it's over, like, wait, where did it end with this character? So when you start next week. So I think as far as recap shows go, it's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So then we get into Kyle's plot line. It's him being driven by the Reverend, and the Reverend is smoking a cigarette, asks Kyle if he minds, and then Reverend starts talking about electronic cigarettes, and he's like, yeah, call me old-fashioned. Nope, that's not the voice.
Oh my god.
All right, let's reset that. Reverend is talking about electronic cigarettes, and he says that, call me old-fashioned, but I think that our vices should leave a rotten taste in our mouth. He's kind of advocating cigarettes. Real nice there, Joe Camel.
Yeah, Marlboro Man, Reverend, whatever. I don't know his actual name, but I mean, he's kind of gotten a point. He's basically talking about how all vices should leave something over. It's the reason God made the hangover, and when your clothes smell and your breath smells, and you kiss your kids with that mouth, you should be reminded that maybe cigarettes aren't the best thing for you, right? So he's not fully advocating. I think he's just doing his favorite Reverend practice, which is the guilt trip.
Yeah, and he's pretty damn good at it. And so it transitions from that into Kyle saying, "You think you can do anything for this guy?" So now we realize they're kind of out on a mission. And Reverend says, "I never walk away from a soul in torment." Gives him some nonsense scripture quote, and Kyle's just shaking his head like, that's not the answer I was looking for there, buddy boy. But then
he always brings up Kyle's mom, though, too. He's like, "Well, I never give up a soul in need, including your mom," and then reads scripture. Like, he really is like, hey, your mom, right?
Yeah, I earned this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Douchey Reverend 101.
Yep, so in that moment right then, something goes flying out of the window, and Reverend says, that's the picture of my son. And Kyle's like, "Wait, you don't have another one?" And so he pulls the car over, and he's frantic to get it, like very, very upset. He actually almost gets hit by a semi-truck in this part, and they're just scrambling around looking for it, and finally they give up and get back in the car.
And this is one of those moments where I'm sure what it's meant to do is save the audience, like, valuable time that can be spent elsewhere, but as upset as he seems, it's basically a 2-minute search.
2 minutes is not how long it took. It was like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like they were out of the car and got back in, and at the end of the episode he has a similar searching moment. And it lasts for about 4 seconds of him stumbling around kicking the ground.
Let's talk about that ending moment, because the end of it, immediately I was like, what a fucking idiot. At the end of the episode, it's dark out, one. It's absolutely been pouring all day, so everything is just muddy and ruined. So then he goes back to the same spot and is digging around for also not a very long time, but...
No, seconds. And he's not digging, he's kicking with his feet.
It's true. He doesn't even have a flashlight. But seriously, putting the time earlier when it made a modicum of sense. Anyway.
Yeah, it was really bad. And then when they actually zoom in on the picture, and it was like a foot away from his driver door.
Wait, like, they do that?
They do, yeah. They actually zoom in on the picture, like where it was in the grass as he's pulling away, and it was about maybe 5 to 6 feet away from his driver door. Like, if he'd actually done any small amount of searching based on where it actually was in close proximity to his car when he pulled back up, it would have been fine. Or maybe just fucking bend over. Like, don't just kick at the tall grass.
So I think this might actually just be clever foreshadowing. In next episode, the Reverend's going to get an eye exam and realize he needs a better prescription. And he's going to go to a back doctor because he has a hard time bending over.
And show's over. That's it. That's actually what this has all been leading up to.
Yeah, it's just his chronic back pain and his constant, pissed off at not being able to see well that has him chasing these ghosts.
I will say there are moments with the Reverend that are a little overdone. You use the term that they're not heavy-handed with their dialogue. I will say some of the preacher's moments are a little funny without meaning to be funny. Like, I find myself laughing at his sermons sometimes, and when he tries to go all fire and brimstone, like, for example, when he was telling the story about everybody would rather be out fishing on Sunday, and everybody laughs, and then he's like, "What are you laughing for?"
Yeah.
There's just a lot of moments where he's like unintentionally funny.
Sure, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that kind of deliver lines in not the best way. I've just noticed with the show they do a good job of having subtle dialogue that kind of gives you backstory and develops things without having to be straight up exposition, like, let me tell you X, Y, and Z about this character, right? There's
only Kyle is the only one that you get the flashbacks on.
Yeah, so everyone else it's just, dialogue. So there's not a moment in this episode where, Lucas breaks down like, okay, I've known Blake for this long, and blah blah blah, and we went through this, yet you still really feel like there's a long relationship. And
yeah, and Megan's whole plot line is the exact same with the guy that she's fallen up on, and it's just giving you little teasers about her background. But
so that's what I think they've done a good job with. But anyway,
yeah, I agree. So Reverend and Kyle end up pulling up to the prison, child picture be damned, and they're met at the gate by the guy's partner, which is Luke. And so his name is Luke Masters, and Reverend tells Kyle, just kind of sit back and observe. Don't get all gung-ho. Like, no need to go all all sheriff from Stranger Things on these guys. Just, chill out and watch and see how it's done. So the guard actually won't let them in at first because, he says you'd be surprised what can be used as a weapon. And they've got all sorts of stuff in the preacher's, handy bag
Particularly the giant metal cross.
Yeah, which
Definitely
it doesn't need to be turned into a weapon. It's just like you swing it and now it is a weapon.
Yeah. It's not like it needs to be fashioned into a shiv. It just straight up would hurt if you hit someone with it.
Pretty badly, yeah. You could take an eye out with that thing.
So the guard doesn't want to let him in. Rightfully so. And not necessarily that they think he's going to, the preacher's going to hurt Blake, but just that
he'll be disarmed. And yeah, for sure.
But Luke Masters says, hey, he's with me.
And that just does it. That's it.
Yeah.
And which is especially funny considering Luke doesn't actually sit in there and like chaperone them the whole time or anything like that either. He's like, hey, it's okay. I've never met these guys before, and I don't plan on watching over their backs while they're doing what they're doing.
So what I would like to know more about, and I don't think we'll ever get it, but this is not a prison cell.
It's like a gigantic boiler room.
Yeah, he lets them, I think he's just getting by the things to get into prison, period. But then you see them walking past all these cells, and they just have the dude in a basement chained up to a chair in the center of a boiler room. So they obviously, maybe just because of his persuasive demonic tongue, don't want him near other inmates or guards or things. That's how I took it, because why else would you have him here?
I did too. I mean, they've got him down in the bowels of the prison, and we don't know why, but we do know that, and we know that Luke is aware of how manipulative he is, so probably I'd say that the guards are aware of that as well, or he was moved out of his cell literally just for this exercise of the Reverend coming in. It could have just been for that moment, since we actually do see him later on strapped to a bed elsewhere.
Yeah, so maybe it's just I need to get him somewhere where there's no cameras to do whatever the hell we need, and I can, kind of not be culpable.
Yeah, and even the guy who escorts them there says, on second hand, you do whatever you need to, and we'll fudge the paperwork and make it legit.
Yeah, so, they go down there, they introduce him to Blake. Definitely know that Luke's wife didn't make it. It wasn't just a savage beating.
Yeah, she's dead.
She's dead. So, they start talking to Blake, and, Blake laughs because I think the Reverend makes a comment about what's inside him, and, he's like, it's not about, what's inside of me, and then he just, goes super dark and talks about what's inside of Tara, which was his wife. It was just super wet, and the wetness wouldn't stop, and the blood was redder than anyone could imagine. It was so warm, and then, when it was done, there was nothing, and I felt sad.
Yeah, well, because the blood had cooled, and now I didn't have anything left of it. And Luke is like, what the fuck happened to you? And that's when Luke just kind of excuses himself and reminds Reverend and Kyle that they've only got 2 hours to get this done. He doesn't want to sit in there and listen to this shit anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So he continues to talk shit, and, he's talking about Luke not being a religious man, and yet somehow Luke thinks this is the answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the demon is sitting there talking shit the entire time, and Reverend asks Blake if he's a religious guy in response to that, and Blake quotes back Isaiah to him, and he's asked by the Reverend, do those words make you feel sick saying them? And he says, yeah, they do. But it's not the sin of people that makes him feel sick. It's actually the forgiveness that other people show that is sickening. And basically, long story short, they cut to the exorcism. Reverend starts it. He's holding up his thing, and he's doing the... what are the words? The walking through the valley of the shadow of death. I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left.
And I don't know the words, man. I wish I had Gangster Paradise.
Because I've been loving and dabbing so long that
even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. Okay, I do know that line.
Straight out of the Bible.
Straight out of the Bible.
Deuteronomy 27:01.
Or as Trump would say, Corinthians 2. Instead of 2 Corinthians.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so he has that whole spiel, and he does admit that the words of God in his mouth make him sick. And so then, the Reverend does, start really preaching at him, puts the cross on his head, and he starts to have a very negative reaction, is freaking out. Shaking, and you're like, all right, we're getting somewhere, only for the guy to just start frantically laughing and mocking the Reverend, letting him know none of that shit was working.
And that's when Reverend basically says to Kyle, like, some people are capable of great evil without needing the excuse of demons. Like, let's get the fuck out of here. And Kyle's like, let me try. We're supposed to be fighting demons 2 by 2. That's what you said. And so Kyle turns to Blake and he's like, do you know me?
Yeah.
And Blake looks all confused, and then Kyle grabs his forehead, and there's like a
this sound. Is actually burning. This is
having a physical effect on him. This is not like him, pretending and then laughing. And then that's when Blake looks up at him and says, Outcast?
Yeah, you outcast. So then Kyle immediately is like, Outcast, what does that mean? Why did you call me that? And he's like, what, you really don't know? Everyone gets uncomfortable around you. I bet you've had some friends in your life, some drinking buddies, maybe some schoolyard people you'd play with, and after enough time goes by, they distance themselves. They don't want to be around you. They cast you out. That's what it means.
He's trying to get in Kyle's head, and it's definitely working.
Sure, and it seems like that is the truth. And you wonder if he's just being silver-tongued and he's just kind of playing with the word that you don't have friends. And but at the same time, you also kind of wonder, well, if he's an outcast and that actually means something in demonology, like he actually has some kind of role in the pantheon of the Judeo-Christian religion, is there also the ramifications that he just can't hold friends because of it? That people that aren't in tune with what's going on behind the scenes still just have a natural reaction, and maybe that's why his life hasn't turned out the way he wants. Maybe that's why the evil demons are kind of finding themselves all around his life, even though most people haven't even seen anything close to an exorcism or a possessed person.
Maybe it's because he's so thin-skinned and has such a proclivity for violence, because basically only a few moments pass by after this before Kyle just punches him in the face.
That's true, too. It might be just a mix between the two things. There actually might be no deeper universal meaning whatsoever. He's just hot-tempered douche.
Well, I mean, like, he says this stuff to Kyle, and Kyle punches him in the face, but, like, the other guy, Luke, who just had his wife murdered and defiled by his best friend who's been taken over by this thing, he doesn't take a swing, but Kyle gets told, oh yeah, little buddy, you grew up without any friends, kapow, right in the kisser.
Yeah. Oh man, good times. Have we seen already in flashbacks what actually happened to Tara at this point? I cannot remember.
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I think that happens in a little bit. If not, we can come back to it regardless. But in fact, if I remember correctly, it is when Luke visits Blake at the end, when he's strapped to the gurney or the hospital bed.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, Kyle's talking to Blake some more, and Blake says, I can get them to stop coming after you. It'll take time. Come see me once a week. I'll make it happen. It might take a couple of years or so. And Kyle's like, "Are you like that's way too fucking long.
What?
Fuck this shit."
You're like trying to wheel a deal. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like getting your credit up so you can finally buy a house or something.
Yeah.
It's just like give it a few years. It's gonna be worth it long term. You'll really appreciate it. You'll be thanking me, but we just got to put in the time now and trust me, man. You'll be better off. It's like fucking. I think I'll just punch you again.
Fannie Mae over here. So Reverend's like, we only have one job, and that's sending that thing back to hell. I'm on the highway to hell. So anyway, that's what they end up doing. Reverend starts burning one down, which is burning the sage, obviously. Splashes some holy water on him, which literally never seems to have any effect. But let's keep doing it. I want to see
so since they use flashbacks to such effect, I want to see the flashback where that worked once, and so now he's sold on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the flashback of where he read, Bram Stoker's Dracula or something as a kid, and just I don't know, has some kind of fetish for it.
Or he's like going into some like magical supply shop and he's asking for the holy water and the guy's like, oh yeah, and then turns and looks at the camera and kind of winks at it, goes to the back, takes like a cup and scoops it in the toilet.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, so anyway, the demon's mocking him, rightfully so. And basically Kyle's like, fuck this shit. So he goes stomping out, but Luke stops him at the door. He's like, I asked around. You're the one with the power. You saved that boy. Please, do you think any of this fucking bullshit makes sense to me? My wife was butchered. I've thrown my career away trying to figure out what to do with my best friend who, is completely taken over. Like, I didn't believe any of this. Please, you're here. I brought you here for a reason. Like, can you please help me?
Yeah, so now you get a sense of time frame, too, because you saw the atrocity in the beginning of the episode, but this obviously isn't like next day he's in prison. Cause he's
this is weeks or months.
Yeah, so this is obviously some point at which Luke has gone down the rabbit hole, chasing these ends, kind of confronting people about these religious connotations and demonology and whatever that otherwise he wouldn't believe in. He's just having a really tough time with it, and this was supposed to be the answer.
Yeah, so we get back to the Reverend. He's performing the exorcism. The demon's mocking him. Reverend's getting pissed that he's getting mocked. I mean, how are they not used to this at this point? Especially him. Like, he's no fucking spring chicken. He's been doing this apparently for a long time. Well, yeah, seasoned veteran. Like, how did they get in his head every time? These guys are so... I don't know. They're just so easily goated.
Well, so I just feel like, one, I don't think the Reverend's been exposed to as many of these as we think. Like, I feel like it's basically, the Joshua Austin. I think it's what's his name's mom.
See, but it's insinuated that it's more. He's like, I go into into houses in every city, and and I'll keep doing it and going. And then remember, because Kyle's like, well, don't do that. Just stop now. So I mean, he does intimate in one of the earlier episodes. I want to say the second one, maybe the end of the first, that this is his calling, something that he has given up his regular life to pursue.
Sure, but one, I think any of the ones he's dealt with, I feel like have to be pretty minor because he doesn't seem to be successful without what's his name. And two, the point I was really trying to make is that he just lost the photo of his son and spent all afternoon looking for it, so he's probably in a bad mood.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh, that's funny. He needed to have Church Lady Flo out there helping search for it. I mean, what good's it having an assistant if she's not going to be helping you out in a pinch?
I mean, that's true. I don't know what else she could be doing. He's not there to drink coffee. I don't know what she assists him with. Church assistants are weird. I'm used to, like, assistants in procedurals for cops where they, make coffee, get fresh donuts, and constantly tell them where to dispatch to.
Coffee and contemplation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway, Reverend is pissed, and the demon is kind of digging the knife in and twisting it a little bit. He says, why'd Kyle get the power and not you? Like, you've devoted your whole life to this. Like, he doesn't care. Like, that must really hurt. And the Reverend's kind of getting up close to him, getting angry.
Yeah.
And then the demon slips off the handcuffs by basically flaying the skin off of his
Yeah, he just rips
wrist.
his hand out and just, like, skin and blood flies everywhere. And then he starts laying the fucking smackdown on the Reverend.
Oh, yeah, but then, but that's when Kyle comes in. He beats that ass. That's what Kyle does. He beats that ass.
He pounds that ass, some might say.
Oh, God damn it. That would be really, really awkward if Kyle just started anally raping him.
He just exercised the demons through sodomy.
Oh, my God.
He's sodomy for the Lord, my goodness.
Oh, my God. I knew there was a reason you got me into this show. But while Kyle is pounding that ass, some of his blood gets into the demon's anus, and no, I'm kidding, it gets into his mouth, and so the whole floating thing occurs again, where his body starts floating up, and it looks like a little blackness escapes, but it's not the way that it normally comes through as some sort of like amorphous gas. Instead, it's like just a little bit of liquid that comes out, and then
coughs it up.
Yeah, he starts laughing, and then Blake, who's the demon guy, just says, I think he says more, but it's kind of distorted.
Yeah, he says more, I think, a few times. He obviously wants more of that magical blood that will maybe get rid of this that's inside him. So you're almost, I don't know, you wonder if that's the real Blake talking.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we'll never find out because I guess that's game over. Kyle and Reverend in the next scene are leaving the prison talking about different things. They're both coated in blood, and Kyle's saying, he can't be saved. Whatever's in him, it's there to stay, despite the fact that they actually got some of the blackness to come out of him. And Luke looks really sad and despondent about all that, walking behind Kyle and the Reverend.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the logic there is that they've never had like a gallon of blood go into anyone's mouth. It's always just been a few drops, which was enough to dispel everything. Right?
I mean, yes.
He's
I just
literally
feel like
squeezed a wound, and a little bit of, like a few drops of blood fell in someone's mouth, and the entirety of the hexus or whatever you're calling it.
But there were other things too, like that were weakening him. Like I think, for example, the fact that there was no access to sunlight definitely was making this situation work in the demon's favor.
It's possible.
But either way, we'll never know, so that we're just, speculating on something that's probably never going to be proven. And so they end up leaving. Luke walks back in the prison, and he sees Blake strapped to a bed, and Blake just starts jabbering away about, how nice it is to have the priest come visit him, and again, just playfully mocking his little buddy. And Luke is like, I wanted to help you, but Blake keeps getting under his skin, talking about his hot wife again. And Luke holds his hands over his mouth and nose, and it really seems like he's about to kill him. Like, he's definitely about to suffocate him, but then he kind of has this moment where you can see it in his eyes. He realizes what he's doing, and he stops, and Blake just calls him a pussy as he walks away.
Yeah, and he's leaving. So at this point, there was at some point during the dialogue, I think when he was talking about the wetness and everything, you actually see flashbacks of what happened to Tara, Luke's wife.
Yeah, this is when it happens.
And it's horrific. I mean, because she basically is contorted like Ju-on the Grudge. Like her there's so many compound fractures, all of her body's broken. It looks like her jaw and everything's been ripped out.
Looks like he took bites out of her too.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it was definitely hard to look at, and pretty insane that Luke had to come in and see that, and then see his friend like drenched in her blood. And oh god, yeah, that's a messed up scene.
That's a terrible date night if I ever had one.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the part now where we get the Reverend searching in the rain. We already went over it. It's so fucking stupid. I can't even bear to go over it again.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so you get Kyle. He's back at his house. He's out on the porch.
And he says Norval. He says Norval.
Yes, he does. Oh my god, yeah, it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's good that we finally got his name, because it looks like he's going to be sticking around for a long... Oh, wait. Kyle ends up going inside because all of his knocks are being unrequited. Nobody's coming to the door. He goes in, and the lights are on, so he thinks definitely somebody's probably home. But he looks and he sees Norville dead. A puddle of blood pooling down below him, and I guess he slit his wrists. And he's still really bleeding out. I mean, like, you still see it dripping out.
Those drops of blood. I liked him. He was a nice character, but there's all that potential guilt around one, his wife's gone, so that's always hard to deal with, right?
I'm sure that's the main part of it.
But I think, that's probably the main part of it. I mean, we don't know how recently that happened or what the circumstances
We do.
were.
It was a year earlier.
Oh, okay. Year earlier.
Yeah, he mentions that in the first one. Her name was Elise. He said that it's been almost a year since Elise died.
Yeah, so he's been doing that with a year, but he also recently, it seems, because Kyle's back in town, he's now talking to her, he seems fairly guilty about the fact that they basically heard domestic abuse going on regularly and didn't do anything about it.
He did, yeah. He says, we caught you under our porch hiding enough times.
Yeah, which is, known. I mean, you see something, say something. I mean, you literally see a kid hiding under your porch. That might be the time to call the police. But
he mentions, like, we thought it was just discipline going on. We didn't know the extent of it.
Yeah, so anyway, that was kind of fucked up. But I thought this was a fairly powerful scene because you kind of like the character. But I thought it was disrespectful that immediately after, Kyle just goes into his fridge and gets some food.
Does he?
No, he doesn't.
He just sits back and watches some Friends reruns on Norville's TV.
Yeah, but I was just kind of thinking that he seems to... I don't think he means it this way, but he essentially just uses Norville. Like, he comes over for food, he takes his car out. So I immediately thought, like, well, shit, he's dead, but you were really just probably coming over for free food anyway. Like, why don't you just go into his fridge, you asshole?
Yeah, he takes the keys and actually goes in and forges like the title of the car to himself.
Yeah, I'm wondering if next episode he'll just be driving Norval's car.
Oh, that'd be kind of fucked up too,
Right?
actually.
Right, I'm gonna look
No,
for
but
that.
I could like actually see that being the case.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
so now on
let's
to
get on to Roy and Megan.
And this one isn't as interesting, but I think it might develop into something pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, there are little bits of it. I mean, there's some intrigue around what's going on with Megan. Roy's plotline here is a little bit more bland, but it does set up. It sets up possible future stuff.
Yeah,
But we don't have to dwell too much on them. Like, let's just go through their scenes pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically them having sex in the morning, and then
Ooh la la.
Right? And then the daughter knocks on the door, ruining the mood. In which case,
God damn it, baby Holly.
Seriously, right? And so then Megan says, "Hey, you better hide that lumber," referring to his penis.
She does not say that.
She does.
That's the line.
She says, "Hide the lumber," which I thought was pretty funny. And,
oh my god, that's a Mathis joke if I ever heard
pretty
one.
much. I mean, hide the sausage is too.
I can't
mainstream.
count the number of times that you've said that to me.
Hey, put that lumber away, buddy.
Oh my
You're
god.
a fox, but not a lumberjack. Or
Oh,
something like
no.
that. Anyway, but what I found really funny is that she also then says, "You need to finish that off in the shower," and he goes, "No way, Jose. He's not having it."
Nope. Yep. No self-titillation from Roy.
Yeah. So now Roy's talking to the sheriff. After this, that's the next thing we see, and he's pretty excited about the findings, right?
Hey, yeah, and apparently the sheriff isn't, because Roy is saying like, I want to go back out to the scene in the woods before it rains and washes away any potential evidence, and sheriff's like, that is a waste of time, Roy.
Well, let's see. Oh yeah, he doesn't want him to go on the. I'm losing my place. He doesn't want him to go investigate. He thinks it's a waste of time. But they kind of get into it, and eventually, the sheriff just hands him looks like a tackle box, but it's a fingerprint kit. And he's like, "Hey, have you ever seen one of these in cadet school?" He goes, "I have." He's like, "Well, look, you have fun getting fingerprints off all them tin cans and this, that, and the other, and you let me know how your day goes," and just ends it there. Like, if you want to waste your time, be my fucking guest.
It makes you wonder if the sheriff truly doesn't believe that there's anything going on out there, or if he somehow isn't necessarily wanting to pursue this for a reason, not so on the nose as being like a cover-up, but just to say if there is some reason why, because he is very resistant to Roy going out there, and to be fair, they didn't really case the place for any sort of evidence or anything like that. Now, maybe because the only crime that happened was the animals were mutilated, the wild animals. But
who cares about that, right? They're just
but they're
fucking animals,
I'm just
right,
saying they're
Foxman?
They're wild animals. Maybe that's more of like an animal control sort of. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that you send out the CSI unit when something like this has occurred.
Yeah, I would agree there, but at the same time, when it's something that seems like, I don't know, kind of rural town, it's America, there's plenty of satanic panic in those kind of communities, and the fact that there's multiple raccoons gutted and nailed to a tree, I feel like it would be investigated, but at the same time, maybe you don't want to draw attention to it and get the news and everything else. I didn't pick up on anything the sheriff was doing at this point as being disinterested. However, once Roy goes out to the camper, he finds like a fingernail, he finds a gold watch, he almost gets killed by a wolf, but throws him a taco, I think it is, or burrito. Which
I wrote down burrito, but I didn't get a good enough look at it. It might have been a Gordita Crunch.
I just love that somehow Roy had a Crunchwrap Supreme in his back pocket.
Well, I mean, you look at the guy's build. When guys are built like me and Roy, we carry around burritos, Mathis.
Yeah, it's like he has a cigarettes in one pocket and just a whole value menu from Taco Bell in his back pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. When the Reverend was talking about people should carry around like the bad sense of their vices and stuff. Well, nobody wants to be around Roy because he's farting all the time.
It's true. But then he gets back to the sheriff's office, and it sounds like he found some compelling stuff, right? I mean, there's bloody scratches in the camper, and he has a fingernail. He has a gold watch, and even says, this is a nice enough watch that you feel like, one, if someone out there was theirs, they wouldn't want to leave it, and two, if they've gone to the effort of stealing it, you'd figure they'd want to keep it with them, right? And this is where I started to get the feeling of kind of a cover-up.
Well, yeah, because Sheriff kind of casts it aside a little bit. He's like, all right, good job there, buddy boo. I'll take it from here. Just put it all on my desk. And Roy is a little resistant and disappointed, but, he ends up doing it. But it did seem a little odd that Sheriff, I don't know, was resistant to him going out in the first place, and then when he actually comes back with good stuff, isn't, like, surprised or says, you were right or anything. He just basically says, yeah, like, I'll take care of that. Yeah, I'm just saying there could be something else going on here with the Sheriff.
Yeah, I'm calling it the Sheriff's evil, which,
You're calling it. I'm the one who just pointed out all the compelling evidence.
Yeah, but you didn't call it.
Alright, fine. Fuck you. I bet Sheriff is being above board and he's a good guy, but there's just a little something else going on, but he's still good at his core.
That's like you going towards the car and saying, like, oh, that car has a front seat. And then I say shotgun.
You know what? Okay, fine. Well, here's the bet. If you're right and he is evil, then for the next show we do whatever you want. But if I'm right and he is still actually a good guy, then you have to podcast about all of the Orlando Magic games for the rest of the year.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God, I have one line, and that's that guy's sick in the pain. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, my God. Well, each one of them is going to be a 2.5-hour podcast, too, so it's going to be a lot of speaking for me.
Oh, man, good times. All right, so now we have Megan. So after the, failed sex this morning because of Holly, Megan's on her way.
Way to go, baby Holly.
I know, right? So she's driving, she's putting on makeup, and then I started thinking, oh shit, is she going to get possessed? Because you see some red car, and that does seem to be the distraction, but it does the kind of like similar visual language where it's kind of zooming in on her eyes, and she seems really distracted and almost like a migraine, and then someone beeps at her, and she's like, oh shit, let me drive on. So I was starting to worry at this point, like, oh shit, is she becoming possessed?
Yeah, she was very shaken, very anxious looking, and it was some of the telltale signs that we've seen, but obviously that's not what happens. She ends up at school, and she is talking to a little girl, kind of dressing her down a little bit, and then outside a red car pulls up, one that looks exactly like the one that was at the hotel. She starts kind of spacing out, watching it while the girl's still yapping at her, but it's actually not the guy. But anyway, she is very distracted, and clearly this is something important. Like, that guy that was getting into the red car is some blast from the past.
Yes, you don't know what yet at this point, but you know it's there. So now, this is obviously after the school day, Megan's watching that car again, and the guy that's there that we saw earlier get in the car that you don't know who he is, he essentially drives off. So then she goes in there, she knows the name, it's Donald or Donnie Hamill, and she essentially smooth talks her way into getting the room number. And initially the lady won't give it to her, but she's like, well, look, I haven't seen him in ages. We're in town for a
this
reunion.
Is the same type of shit that happened with that. I can't remember if it was Hilton or Marriott or whatever, but there was that ESPN reporter, Erin Andrews, and she had a stalker, and they ended up giving out, basically like tipping their hat to what her room number was, and then setting the guy up like on like in a room on her floor. He went and recorded her naked through the peephole on her door, and ended up putting it online, and then she sued the hotel chain for like tens of millions of dollars. Like, I can't remember how much it was. It was like $80 million or something like that. But it was all from a situation basically exactly like this.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, I remember that news story, but I just remember it being about like the video and something happened. I never followed
the lawsuit. This was recent, like within the last month or two.
Oh, because I just remember when the story broke about it happening.
Oh, and it was massive lawsuit. I'm telling you, tens and tens of millions.
Being that this place isn't a chain, that would just like completely shut it down. So hopefully this guy isn't a ESPN anchor.
Well, it would be really bizarre if Megan was trying to film him naked through the peephole.
Yeah, at this point, I'm convinced she's trying to kill him, because she now goes up there and is looking around the room, right? She's going through the stuff. She opens the computer, and this is where you're like, oh, fuck. What's going on in this past here? Because the computer is opened up to her Facebook page.
Yeah, exactly. And while this is happening and she's kind of like freaking out, we're seeing cuts back and forth of him actually pulling up outside. and now she's on the bed crying, and he's walking down the hallway, and so the guy walks into the room, and you're like, oh fuck, please don't be there, please don't be there.
Yeah.
And she is gone, but she did kind of leave the door to the balcony outside slightly ajar. For lucky, I guess, that it was a first floor room here, right?
Seriously, yeah, that unless she's like, I don't know, world-class spelunker, and we just don't know that backstory yet.
While this is happening, you actually do get a little cut of Data, which is the only name I still have for him at this point.
Black Fedora.
Yeah, Black Fedora Data. Shaving in a hotel room, getting himself ready. He has a pretty bad coughing fit at some point. Do you think that that's going to come back up?
Maybe. So there's two things that I thought were kind of interesting here. Yes, he has the coughing fit, and he coughs up some Hexus, the black stuff. But also, when he's getting suited up, if you look on his nightstand, he has, like, no joke, 15 bottles of vitamins.
Oh, I didn't see that either.
So he's obviously very sick, and, I don't know what's ailing him, but he somehow thinks, like, multivitamins, because these look like just consumer bottles of different vitamins, would help him out. So that I thought was interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I will say, up until Donnie gets to the room and she's not in it, like, my note was like, she's ready to kill. I thought, like, she was just waiting for him and he was going to go and look and she was going to pounce. And because the one thing, and they haven't really honed in on it, but I thought it was kind of juxtaposing what happened with Blake, the fact that once the darkness was in, he immediately attacked someone that he kind of already, for whatever reason, lusted after, this, that, and the other. So I was wondering, like, maybe this is a, I don't know, affair that happened, or like a past lover, and now that she's being infected and he just happens to be in town, she's being drawn to do this. But, we'll see what pans out. She didn't kill the guy.
I was thinking something completely different the whole time. First off, I thought she was sneaking up there to see, like, what he was doing here. Like what, I don't know, what had drawn him back to the town. And then when she sees the I don't know, Facebook profile or whatever, that, her picture and stuff, I don't know why, or if there was a cut that I didn't put any notes down, but I for some reason, my mind went to the thought of, like that he was obsessed with her and, like, did something, like, molested her or did something like that.
Yeah, well, what?
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, it's actually in the next scene with her and the deputy when she finally gets home. They start getting frisky, and
she can't.
Yeah, well, because she has a quick flash and imagines that guy, that was getting in the red car earlier, imagines him on top of her. So yeah, by the end of the episode, I was thinking, like, this guy molested her or raped her at some point in the past, and now he's shown back up, and she had snuck in there basically to find out, like, what his intentions were here in town.
Yeah, and I'm there with you, but, that, my thought process up until that happened, and once the Facebook page happened, it was, like, throwing me off. But just the way they were treating it with her, like, seemingly possessed like they did with Blake. But by the end of the episode, when that comes up in it, there's some kind of dark past, but I'm also wondering if they're planting the seed of, her possession and him maybe being the catalyst of letting the darkness in.
I hope she doesn't get possessed. That'd be a little sad, don't you think?
I definitely think it'd be sad, but I also think it was sad that Norval killed himself.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but he's just some lonely old dude, sitting next door in his shitty little cabin. I mean, she's like, she's got baby Holly and she's got Big Bubba Roy. Like, it would be, there are people that depend on her,
Sure. So if those of you out there that don't have anyone that depends on you and you're alone, Adam,
your lives don't matter.
Yeah. Foxman will not weep a single tear for you.
Oh, that is funny. God, seriously, like the typical pretentious father, that thinks that, like, oh, you just don't understand, like, how fulfilling life is once you have children.
Yeah, God, you're the worst. Did we finish? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really quick. That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what
Megan said.
I was about to say that's what Megan
to the creepy
wishes she said.
red car guy.
I think that's what she wished she said to Roy. Because remember when they're having sex in the very beginning? She's just like, finish, and then he's like, okay, I'm just gonna try because otherwise I was trying to please you, and then Holly fucks it up. Because anyway, what did you think overall?
I thought that it was pretty good. I could see this being more of like the regular setup of the show, is having, some demon of the week sort of thing that they have to go exercise, and that they're gaining more information about Kyle's past and what it means, that they call him the Outcast, and what Data's role is. I could see all that kind of progressing hand in hand, and us having it through these, like I said, the Demon of the Week shows.
Yeah, I could see that being I don't know, a formula for like either a third or half of each episode, and then the rest being, other broader pieces. Obviously, we're going to get to see more of the Fedora Man. We're going to obviously see a little bit more about Donnie and Megan and whatever happened there. I think we're going to see, obviously more with Roy investigating. So I think you're going to see more of these pieces coalesce, and so then all of a sudden you're halfway through, or 2 or 3/4 through or whatever of the season, you're going to see more of like the broad plot form. But I think we will get some kind of formula like that, or just to keep it interesting, maybe they'll have like an episode where Kyle's being domesticated, learns how to shave and clean his house and live on his own, and it can be all montages.
For sure. So I think that pretty much wraps up the episode. As always, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit at Boob Tube Buddies. Also, hashtag Synergy. There is another great show going on right now with Dan and Nathan doing The Get Down, which I have to say has really surprised me how much I'm enjoying it. I am way ahead on it. Like, I'm almost done with the 6 that are out right now. Very, very surprising to me. It did not seem like it was up my alley. But I just, and it not that it doesn't have its problems, but it's just fun. Like, it's just an enjoyable, entertaining show. It's got good music, but it's not a musical in the traditional, like, cheesy, we're only going to communicate via song sort of thing. I'm really digging it. They got some great actors on there. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and tease this here for anybody listening, that in a few weeks, we are going to add 2 new podcasters to the bullpen here, and they're going to be podcasting under the name Boob Tube Buddies, and it is Bethany and Kristen. They're going to be doing the upcoming season, which I believe is 6, of American Horror Story. And
to be fair, I was vouching for the name Boob Tube Babes. I feel like that every now and then again you'll get someone that's somehow trying to find audio porn, and then we just get a new listener inadvertently. but no one was going for that at the staff meetings, unfortunately.
Nope, I strong-armed this bitch into Boob Tube Buddies.
Yeah. Anyway, the Get Down. I've seen the first one and absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. I don't remember who it was. It was either on Twitter or Reddit or something, but someone had the comment of, between Luke Cage and the Get Down, like, where was this programming on the BET when I was growing up?
That's pretty funny.
Well, just because I like it, because it is very, it's basically black-centric as far as the cast go, but
oh my god, Mathis,
whatever.
Jesus.
Well, compared to the stuff we've been reviewing, like Stranger Things and this, like, it's mostly white people.
Oh my god, Adam and Mathis whitewashing the Boob Tube Buddies name.
And then the one question of this show where, like, the 2 black people in the show, one of them killed himself and the other one we're essentially assuming is going to be the villain. Right?
Oh my god, thank god for Dan and Nathan making us culturally diverse.
Sure.
Wait, aren't they just 2 white guys too?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Damn it.
One of them was in theater and can rap pretty well, so I don't know. All I'm saying...
Okay, well, I was in band and I can rap pretty well. I played the tuba as well. I mean, does that make me well-rounded?
If you're watching the Get Down and you're already almost through with it, and you're going to take a whole day off from work like I am to, watch all of Luke Cage and review it...
I also just watched Straight Outta Compton for the 2nd time.
That's a great movie.
It's actually really fun.
Yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying is there's a lot of really fun, diverse content out there, and I've decided that just in general we're just putting more and more stuff out there for every type of audience to like. 'Cause like BoJack is not the typical thing I think you would see most people digest, but I'm almost done with the 2nd season and it's phenomenal. Like, there is a general overarching storyline like any drama show, but they're pretty masterful by doing, we're talking about this show having a almost a formula, like Demon of the Week is the main plot, but then they do this other stuff. BoJack is masterful at having a singular funny theme and plot for the show, like you would expect from, say, I don't know, South Park or Family Guy or Simpsons. There's one kind of main plot, but it continues the story arc as well in just enough places, and it's a blast too. So I definitely recommend that show as well.
Cool. Right on. Well, let's put a bow on this bitch. You want to go ahead and read us out, Mathis?
Yes, I do want to read us out. We will see you next time, little buddies. Listen to the Audible ad coming up.
Hey buddies, this episode of Boob Tube Buddies is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrials.com/boobtubebuddies and get your free book today. Actually, another message to you kids out there. Is your teacher making you read Shakespeare? Look, I love The Bard as much as the next guy, but everyone knows that was written to be a play, right? You can't just read it. Plus, what was up with the English at that time? It didn't make any sense. But when you listen to people read it, oh, I promise, it makes a heck of a lot more sense. So go to audible.com, just search for Shakespeare. Honestly, you don't have to type more than that. The man's got enough books. You're going to get tons of different versions. You can actually check out my personal favorite, which is Shakespeare's Macbeth. Anyone familiar with Macbeth? I don't know why I'm talking to you like you're going to answer.